The Wizard of Oz looks magical, but behind the scenes, it was a nightmare. What really happened to the actors? Why did toxic makeup, explosions, and cruel treatment leave some of them scarred for life? How did a fantasy film cause real pain, burns, and even lifelong health damage? Well, here are Wizard of Oz actors who got lifelong disabilities from filming. Starting with the OG, none other than Buddy Ebsen. Buddy Ebsen never thought a movie role would nearly kill him. He was a well-known actor and excited to be part of The Wizard of Oz, a huge production that promised magic and fame. At first, he was picked to play the Scarecrow, but that changed when another actor, Ray Bolger, pushed for the role. Buddy got moved to the Tin Man instead, a part that looked exciting but would turn into the worst experience of his life. The costume was heavy and uncomfortable, but the real danger came from the silver makeup. To make him look like metal, the studio covered his face and hands with a fine aluminum powder. Back then, no one thought it was dangerous, but breathing it in, that was slowly killing him. The set was hot, the lights were intense, and the makeup kept melting off. So what did the crew do? They just kept putting on more. Buddy had to sit there, day after day, breathing in the dust. He started having cramps in his legs and arms, but he didn't want to complain. Actors were expected to keep going, no matter what. After all, it was Hollywood, and everyone was replaceable. But then one morning, everything changed. He woke up feeling like he couldn't breathe. His chest felt tight, his whole body ached, and he was struggling just to sit up. He was rushed to the hospital, barely able to speak. Doctors ran tests and found out his lungs were full of aluminum dust. Oxygen couldn't get through. He was suffocating from the inside. For 2 weeks, Buddy lay in a hospital bed, hooked up to machines, barely able to move. The pain was constant. Breathing felt like a fight. He thought he might die. When he finally started to recover, he thought he could return to the set. But instead of a welcome back, he got a message from MGM. He was out, fired, just like that. No apology, no explanation. The studio didn't want delays. They replaced him with Jack Haley, who wore a different type of makeup that was less toxic, but still not safe. The damage to his lungs was permanent. For the rest of his life, he struggled with breathing issues and chest pain. His acting career never fully recovered either. He spoke about the experience later in life, calling it one of the most terrifying things he had ever been through. And the worst part? Nobody believed him at first. Studios didn't want bad press, so they stayed quiet. They told people he left because of health reasons, but they didn't say why he got sick. But he lived with the scars on his body and in his heart for decades, and all because of a bit of silver makeup, used without care on a set that cared more about the movie than the man wearing the costume. Ray Bolger. If you thought what happened to Buddy Ebsen was horrifying, wait till you hear what Ray Bolger went through. He finally landed the role of the Scarecrow after fighting hard for it, but he had no clue just how painful that decision would be. Every single day, they glued a tight rubber mask to his face using thick latex. Sounds bad already, right? But that mask wasn't just tight, it was like a trap. It stuck to his skin so hard that peeling it off after long, sweaty 12-hour shoots felt like ripping off his own face. It hurt every time, Bolger later admitted. The constant pulling, stretching, and gluing carved deep marks into his skin. These weren't little scratches or rashes. These were deep creases that cut into his face and never fully healed. Even when the cameras stopped rolling, the pain didn't. When filming ended, Bolger looked in the mirror and realized something chilling. The mask had changed his face for good. The lines around his mouth and chin stayed there, like scars left by the Scarecrow himself. But that wasn't the worst part. In one scene, the Wicked Witch tries to set the Scarecrow on fire. Now, you'd expect movie magic, right? Nope. They used real flames, and to stop his costume from going up in smoke, they covered it in asbestos. Back then, people thought asbestos was a miracle material, perfect for fireproofing. No one knew it was deadly. Breathing it in could destroy your lungs, cause cancer, and slowly kill you from the inside. Years later, long after the curtain had closed on The Wizard of Oz, Bolger's past came back to haunt him. In 1986, he was diagnosed with bladder cancer, a possible effect of all that asbestos exposure. A year later, he passed away. All those hours under that mask, all those takes with real fire and toxic chemicals, it wasn't just acting, it was real danger. hidden behind lights, costumes, and applause. The Scarecrow made people smile, but for Bolger, it was a role that left marks he could never erase. Think that was scary? Just wait. Other actors got burned by actual fire and went through even worse. Things on that set got way more terrifying than anyone ever expected. Margaret Hamilton, the unforgettable Wicked Witch of the West. Her role terrified kids for generations, but behind the scenes, her time on set was nothing short of a nightmare. To make her skin that eerie green color, the makeup team used a copper-based paint. It looked great on screen, but it was dangerous, thick, and completely toxic. Every day, they layered it on her face and hands like a mask of poison. The stuff was so risky, she couldn't even eat properly. "I had to drink my meals through a straw," she once said, too afraid the makeup might slip into her mouth. Breathing it in was just as risky. If enough of those copper particles made it into her lungs, it could have seriously harmed, or even killed, her. But Margaret kept going, committed to the role. After months of filming, the green wouldn't go away. Her skin stayed tinted long after the makeup was gone, and she joked that she was still slightly green weeks after shooting ended. But the worst was yet to come. One of the most iconic scenes in the movie, the Wicked Witch disappearing in a blast of fire, nearly ended Margaret's life. The stunt was simple in theory. Flames shoot up and she drops through a hidden trapdoor. But something went horribly wrong. The timing failed. The trapdoor jammed and the fire exploded before she could get out of the way. Flames wrapped around her, burning her face and hands. And remember that copper paint? It reacted with the fire, making the burns even worse. Her costume caught fire, and she was left screaming in pain as the crew scrambled to help. She suffered severe third-degree burns. But the horror didn't stop there. Doctors had to remove the toxic green paint from her skin by rubbing alcohol directly onto the wounds. "It felt like my skin was being set on fire all over again," she said. The pain was unbearable. She was out for weeks, healing from burns that left permanent scars. And yet, the studio barely paused. They wanted her back as soon as possible, with little concern for what she'd just endured. No apology, no time to fully heal, just pressure to return to the role that had nearly killed her. Betty Danko. And just when Margaret Hamilton's fire accident seemed like the worst, her stunt double Betty Danko had it even rougher. During a flying broomstick scene, a pipe meant to release smoke suddenly exploded. The blast threw her off, badly injuring her legs and leaving permanent scars. She spent nearly 2 weeks in the hospital. The studio barely reacted, quickly replacing her and moving on like nothing happened. Betty wasn't a star, but she paid a brutal price for a few seconds of movie magic. Judy Garland. As if things weren't already bad enough, let's talk about what happened to Judy Garland. She was just 16 when she was cast as Dorothy, the sweet girl in the ruby slippers. On screen, she was full of hope, skipping down the yellow brick road. But off camera, her life was nothing short of a nightmare. The studio didn't see her as a teenager. They saw her as a product to be molded, starved, and controlled. They didn't want her to look like a regular girl. They wanted her skinny. So skinny, in fact, that they only let her eat chicken soup and drink black coffee. And when that wasn't enough, they gave her cigarettes to kill her appetite. Yes, they were literally handing cigarettes to a teenager to stop her from eating. When the long filming hours wore her down, they gave her pills to stay awake and more pills to help her sleep. It became a trap she couldn't escape. One pill to wake up, another to go to bed, over and over. She later admitted that this routine started during Oz and haunted her for the rest of her life. And it wasn't just physical abuse. The way people spoke to her was cruel beyond belief. Studio heads insulted her to her face, calling her names like fat little pig with pigtails. Can you even imagine the damage that does to a teenage girl? She cried on set often, and instead of comfort, she got slapped, literally. Director Victor Fleming once hit her across the face to stop her from laughing during a scene. Even with all the abuse, she wasn't fairly paid. While her co-stars earned thousands a week, Judy only made $500, despite being the star of the movie. The pressure, the bullying, the hunger, the pills, it all added up. What started on the set of The Wizard of Oz followed her into adulthood. She became dependent on the same drugs they forced on her as a teen. Her body and mind never got a break. She died in 1969 at just 47 years old from an overdose. While the movie made her famous, it also broke her. And all those smiles on screen? They came from a girl suffering in silence behind the scenes. Who was your favorite Wizard of Oz character? Do let us know in the comment section below. And for more such amazing videos, do subscribe to our channel.